Deepo just arrived with his presentation. I'm very happy to welcome Deepo. He's an instructor in our program. We've been knowing each other for quite a long time. He's a technical writer. He's also an editor in regulated industry. He blends his experience also in authoring in structured and unstructured environments, migrating technical publication to data, content strategy, and he was awarded master's degree in our university. So we are very happy to welcome Deepo. You have the floor for exactly 20 minutes. Thank you, Deepo.
Thank you very much. I'm here to give a quick talk on structured content reviews by SMEs, the challenges and a few solutions to that. So didn't know Patricia was going to present me, but I'll just quickly go over a little bit of my background. I'm an ex-English teacher from the UK, and I moved to France and took the MA, as Patricia just said, in CCMS, and graduated in 2016. We've got over 16 years combining languages and IT, including 14 years as a technical writer and editor. And I've been working in regulated industries, high-end medical devices and finance for that 14 odd years. And now I work with companies developing a best-in-class CCMS now, and that's where I am. I create articles and try and promote the product, but also I do things like this in trying to promote best practice in our field. A little bit about Companize. It's a flexible CCMS with an open architecture, standards and APIs, which means we provide full support for DITA and DocBook, as well as other DTDs and schemas. Companize can manage any type of content, including images, videos, PDFs, PowerPoints, Word, as well as obviously all the XML files that you can put in there. It allows the implementation of complex business workflows, meaning it does more than just document status management, and it's a highly scalable solution, managing from a few dozen to over 50 million DITA files. Oh, and one of the best things about Companize is that it keeps your XML pure. We don't add proprietary code when you start using XML, when you start using Companize. So let's take a look at why am I talking about this? Why do we review content? Well, reviewing technical documentation is a crucial step in the product life cycle from creation to obsolescence. It ensures that your documentation is accurate, complete, and meets all the necessary requirements for regulatory and compliance purposes. It also ensures that it is written clearly and easy to understand by the targeted audience. Let's look at some of the challenges that we face, and we find like, some of them are actually self-inflicted. So we invented workflows, but rather than continuing to use the simple workflow, we try and make them more and more complicated. We have tools and technologies to collaborate. However, we continue increasing the spaces between us and creating more and more silos. Structured content adds complexity with reuse mechanisms and additional tools, making it difficult for people to just jump in and jump out. And we have issues with SME engagement in reviews. And then we talk about compliance with regulatory requirements, which makes things very difficult to do using just the basic tools. Let's take a look in detail at some of these issues. So here I've got, an unnecessarily complex and convoluted workflow. Either out of self-preservation or misguided approach to working practices, some managers seem to think that their teams work better when they're isolated from other departments in the organization, but that comes at the cost of better collaboration. Quite often, a document review workflow looks like what you see on screen here. And in here, we've got 5 different tools fighting for priority, fighting for attention of all the users. There's a requirements database, there's an EDMS, an electronic document management system, where documents and records are managed. There's a CCMS. I'm not going to go and explain what that one is. Document share portals and services used to distribute drafts for review. This also, I'm including in this category emails, SharePoint, and so on. And finally, then you've got your delivery platform, and this is where your intended audience is supposed to pick up the documents. If we look at the issue with collaborations and silos within an organization lead to different schedules and priorities for each of those silos. The SME might not be in the same headspace as the technical writer, due not just to task prioritization, but also due to the multiple systems and tools in use within the organization. There are a multiplicity of role unique tools. Engineers and project leaders will work in Excel, Word, or any specialist tools that they've got. Technical writers use their specialist content editors. Requirements are kept in a database. Product records are archived in an EDMS. Risk management is done in another tool. Defects are tracked somewhere else. The list is endless, and it just leads to incompressible delays in workflows. Sorry, next slide. Reuse is complex, and once you talk about structured content, you're talking about reuse. It requires a deep understanding of the content strategy and the information architecture that's been designed to support it. The challenge is not just in the technical requirements of reuse, but also the cultural shift that is required to get people thinking differently about content. It requires a change in mindset so that all stakeholders see their role as contributing towards a common goal of reusable content. In addition, there are risks that need to be managed throughout the process: regulatory compliance issues, intellectual property risks, and so on. Some editors do provide a no tags view of the XML. However, most of the time, in usage, structured content mechanisms are not considered. It doesn't consider the lack of structured writing knowledge. Content reuse mechanisms can easily be broken through ignorance and inexperience. For example, hard coding where there was a variable, or copy and pasting content from one topic to another, and in the end, you find that you've copy pasted a conref that should not be in that particular topic. Let's look at engagement. When asked, many SMEs will admit that they consider document reviews as a peripheral part of their job. Unless reviewing documentation is listed as a core task, many consider it an inconvenience. They would go as far as to suggest that if they must reread the content, then they might as well write it themselves. If reviews are not explicit in the list of tasks, well, they'll consider it a low priority aspect, and as such, you won't get your reviews back in time. There's also a high learning curve for non-technical writers. There's a lack of adequate review tools, as I mentioned, and reviewing source content in, for example, an Oxygen editor requires training the SME. So no matter what the XML editor, it takes getting used to. Training someone to use a tool that they will not use for another year, where they're going to use it for, like, let's say 1 day, and then they don't use it for another year, is a waste of time. Think about when you first learned how to use Adobe FrameMaker. For those of you still using it, how many of the functions that you were taught do you still remember how to use? As technical writer, we use these tools every day. As such, we get used to them, we know how to use them. How do you expect someone who uses it infrequently to hop into something that they're not necessarily even in the mood to do, and then use it to get that review done? The last challenge here is one of compliance, a mistrust of source content reviews. For example, there's a misconception that the FDA will only, the Food and Drugs Administration in the US, will only accept PDF documents when submitting a product for registration. But when you examine that requirement closely, the FDA only requires the submission to be based on content that cannot be easily changed or modified without an appropriate level of traceability. This has been interpreted to mean, give me a PDF, as they're hard to falsify. Well, this truth is no longer valid. Basically, if you do a quick search on Google for a free PDF editor, my last search got 1.3 million hits. So out of those, you could pick 10 good multi-platform apps that will do a very good job of allowing you to change text and images, even in a secure PDF document. A CCMS that works outside of an organization's quality management system is never going to be trusted to be able to provide the level of traceability and auditability required in regulated industries. However, if the CCMS has been planned and qualified, then merged into the existing QMS matrix of the organization, it's easier to allow more complex use of the CCMS. Let's take an example, take a look at an example of how these issues come together. So in this illustration, there's inefficiency and there's a repetition. Inefficiencies include, like, pre-publication of documentation for review, preparing the package and then sending it out to the SME by email or dropping it into a SharePoint or cloud shared drive. The time taken to collate feedback in regulated industries, you must have a list, an auditable version of all the changes and the feedback that you received and the resolution actions. And then the repetitions that can be avoided, like the back and forth by email to understand and implement feedback. Sending multiple emails to multiple SMEs multiple times means that you're going to have multiple feedback that you're going to have to collate and keep a track of. And here you're not able to complete a review in less than 2 cycles. This also results in poor visibility of the project status. You just cannot specify when a review cycle will be complete. So going on from that example, if you had, like, a 50-page document review that had to go through 3 cycles with 5 SMEs, you're looking at 750 odd pages of content to review if you do it sequentially. Obviously, I'm exaggerating this to make the point, but the idea is that you have to collate feedback from 750 pages of content, create reporting documents, and then there's always the time lag between sending your document off by email and receiving the results. So how can I improve my reviews? Well, you want to analyze and improve workflows. You want to use CCMS workflows, improve output format reviews, adopt source content reviews, and limit output reviews. Let's look at that in a little bit of detail. Here's the same workflow. Well, this is an improved version of the workflow that I showed you earlier on. This is slimmed down. I've taken out redundant tools and systems. And so, for example, rather than extracting your PDF from the CCMS, why don't you use the tools inside of the CCMS to send it for review? And then you have all your tracking and all the approval and all the comments still within the CCMS. You're able to then perform extracts of that in case of an audit. Using your CCMS workflows, if you have a connected system, well, using the workflow will allow you to set it up once and use it many times. You're sure to be compliant because there's less chance of missing someone out or something out during a review cycle. Your CCMS can not only track all changes to content, but also who said what, when, why, and what the resolution actions that were taken are. This allows you to have better auditability. Your workflow can set permissions so that the marketing intern doesn't make comments if they're not allowed to. The right person receives the right instructions and is only allowed to perform the tasks that have been assigned to them. Can you imagine your workflow automatically creating a new dev branch as soon as you send a document for formal verification review? Your writers can keep working seamlessly in the new branch, safe in the knowledge that the content under review is not going to be changed. You want to also improve your output reviews. If you cannot avoid PDF reviews, there's some best practice. So, for example, share in advance, set your expectations and clarify the goals of your review. Identify any problems earlier on. Seek feedback from SMEs before you request a review. Before you going into a formal review, talk to them. We've all got chat tools and everything now. You can easily drop something into your team's tool and get the feedback as you're going along, and that allows you to reduce the number of review cycles and increase agreement at the end when you do send that document out for review. Establish review rules to eliminate confusion. Marketing should be checking for copyright material. Regulatory should be checking for compliance. And your peers should be maybe checking for adherence to style guides and maybe help you remove, spot those grammar errors, those little typos that everyone makes. Engage with your SME during the review to better understand feedback comments. I mentioned that earlier on. Also allows you to clarify questions or any contradictions. You might get contradicting information from two different SMEs and they're looking at it from their points of view. And one thing I would say everyone needs to do is to start rewarding your SMEs for their reviews. And rewards do not have to be monetary. One of the concepts behind why and how Twitter and other social networks work so well is the principle of rewards. A like is a reward. A retweet is a reward. This simple dopamine-based reward system has the world addicted to social media platforms. A simple thank you at the end is sufficient to make an SME feel really special. Or you can set up an award system to have, like, the most effective comment, or who spotted that hidden defects that would have got through had they not completed their review. Adopt synchronous reviews. Now, there's a big debate going on about, synchronous versus asynchronous working. There's no single answer to all situations, but sometimes it's best to clarify draft input with multiple SMEs who might have different points of view in real time. Typically, you might have marketing versus regulatory, or image quality versus software engineering. Having multiple teams in the same meeting at the same time for a review meeting can resolve the issue a lot faster than emails sent to different people and different people replying at different times. You want to limit your output reviews. Stop wasting time. Instead of those 750 pages of content to review, if you remember that slide, the SME only sees that final version once at the end of the draft cycle. They've already seen new content and have approved it over several iterations, and they just have to approve the publication of that content in that final review. Using publishing parameters within your CCMS and your editor, you can set that up to automatically highlight anything that's changed between versions. Introduce task-based reviews. This could be the topic for another entire presentation, task-based reviews. But reviews that are linked to a project, whether Agile or not, are easy to set up. So you could maybe set up a regulatory review task, and that way you only put in the regulatory leaders, and they're able to then only look for those aspects of responding to requirements. A marketing review task would be there for them to check on the product name, or how you've said something about the product, if it's in line with what they want to say. This allows reviewers and the author also to focus on one subject at a time. So in conclusion, you want to minimize your final output reviews. You want to use CCMS workflows, use document approval workflows and electronic signatures embedded within your CCMS to review content. The added advantage is having your audit trail within the CCMS. Create task-based reviews to reduce the cognitive workload on all the participants in the process. Synchronous reviews, perform more real-time reviews to reduce confusion and the amount of tracking that has to be done following multiple email exchanges. And send shorter pieces of content for review so that the final review is just as easy as giving the document over for them to have just a last minute look to see that, well, there's no whole sections missing, and that it printed out, tables are in the right places, and so on. That's me. If you want to find out a little bit more, follow me on LinkedIn. You've got my LinkedIn handle on there. Come over to companize.com. We've got a blog. I write a blog on there, and I tackle these subjects. I'd also like you to actually send me messages on LinkedIn. Give me ideas of topics that you'd like for me to write about. I'm really interested in in the review process and trying to get us to be more efficient technical writers and producing content a lot faster, a lot easier. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepo. I don't have to say anything about time. It's perfect. I understood because I'm not a technical writer. Anything else thing that you said, well, great job. And thank you very much. I think we have questions or remarks on. Véronique Devaux says, my daily life in short. Okay. Victor also, that you know, Victor Devaux said, thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Hi, Victor.
Yes. Hi, Victor, too. Fanny, thanks for the rewarding tips. Remember one CDMM teacher saying that we should bring food to improve collaboration. But food doesn't
I've got
work.
an article about that actually, and like, you know, there was someone that, you know, used to have to go into meetings with like tea and biscuits and things like that, you know, just to like make sure that all the reviews that they needed would come to the meeting.
Yes, croissant work very well also. Chouquette, of course, chouquette is a
Yes.
sort of a little something round with
sweet dumplings.
Yes, sweet dumpling, that's it. Exactly. And so you have a GE Healthcare mate who is saying cheers to you also. And so any questions? Any comments more than that?
I won't be hurt if you don't have any questions.
No, you had a great deal of remarks and feedback. So that's very interesting. Thank you also for offering the opportunity to write on subject that are eager to someone or to share those because it's very important also to share comments and to share information between technical writers, technical communicators. So thank you very much.
I really need that. There's just no point me sitting in my own little bubble and thinking I know all the things that, you know, you need to know. Giving me those ideas, give me your experiences and things like that, you know, and I'll create an article if you want to collaborate on something, you know, that's quite open. I do interviews as well, and I've, like, you know, interviewed industry experts. You can find that on our YouTube channel and on very, very, very topics. And I'm not just here to sell Companize, and my videos are always product neutral. So, you know, come in there, it's for information purposes and not to sell the products.
Okay, there's another comment from Véronique Devaux saying, main problem for me is always to get SMEs involved.
Yes.
So apart from giving them food or maybe a little bit of champagne or whatsoever, what would you recommend?
Well, that's part of what I've said. Like, you know, one of the things that we all like, everybody likes, is thank you at the end of it, you know. And if you've really thanked somebody or put their name up in lights, you know, that without them, I wouldn't have been able to sort this out. You know, the next time you ask them, they're going to be more willing to help you. Also think about their workload and their priorities. If in your company, if in your organization, review is not listed as one of the SMEs tasks, then, well, what you want to try and do is not burden them with the whole big 200-page document just 3 weeks before publication. So as you're writing, send them something. Oh, what do you think? I'm not sure about this. Could you just read this paragraph? You know, if you're making a change, you know, point out, highlight the changes. And as you're going along, build up, you know, that review incrementally so that when you do send it to them, you say, oh yeah, by the way, on this day, you saw this information, all the things that are highlighted, we've already agreed, you know, I sent you the draft and everything. So when they receive that 200-page document, from their point of view, I've already read this, so I just want to, you know, just quickly zip through it and I'm able to complete that task. You don't want to add more to their workloads. Try and find ways for, if you have a CCMS within your organization, you want to try and find a way to include it in the process that other teams use. Some CCMSs offer a review interface, and a lot of people end up not using it. They're not perfect. In most cases, things like profiling are not, handled properly. So they get to see, like, if you're using a Windows Mac computer, the profiling is not applied. That makes it hard for people to read. However, start using it, train them into using into that, and usually in those tools you find that those variables or those things that are reused are highlighted in some way. But if they're not, at least you're doing it incrementally. And your advantage with doing it with your CCMS is that everything is tracked. So you've sent it off to somebody. You don't then have to get an Excel file and say, like, I made this change, I sent it to this person, they said they were okay, and I used to have to do that. I'm talking from experience, having an Excel file to, like, update and then go and put an archive with the final PDF. If I could have used the review tool that was in the CCMS that we used then, I would have had, like, a much better life. We are, okay, I said I'm not selling a product. Companize is developing a review tool that is going to be CCMS agnostic. So we don't want you to get this review tool and then buy Companize CCMS. You can plug it into GitHub, you can plug it into whatever repository system that you're using. But the idea is it's going to be it's going to be as simple as using a Google Docs document, i.e. you've got your chat panel, everything is tracked, and then you can extract all the comments. It detects changes between versions automatically. So you say you want to send for review, you choose the previous version and the current version. The modeling engine looks through it and identifies all the changes. And you can ping people, send them links to the exact spot that you're in. Come over and, like, I'll tell you more about it. I don't want to make this talk about Companize review. Come over if you are interested, and ping me on LinkedIn, and, like, I'll give you more details. I'll allow you even to join our special secret club of beta testers. I hope that sort of, like, gave you a few tips.
Yes,
There's
thank
more.
you very much, Tipo. There's nice comments on the chat from André Tran about developers and showing them that you find bugs. There's a very interesting comment also from Lubna. She's also an instructor in our programs, and she's talking about GitHub and Markdown.
Mm-hmm.
And CCAM also has a question for you. Do you have in your review process a feedback to SME to improve next review efficiency?
I don't quite understand, Lindsay. Do you have in your review process a feedback to the good, not so good? Yes. Now, I did a talk with Noz Urbina from Urbina Consulting. He does Omnichannel X, and there he made a very interesting comment in that, you don't just want to review only the content, but you also want to, like, try and highlight areas in your documentation that generally have repeated problems. And then you work with your SMEs to try and find out, why is it that every time we bring up this topic, it always causes confusion? This person's going to understand it this way, this person's going to understand it that way. Try and work on that. So that's getting your feedback back from other people apart from the SMEs, maybe from your service center. People are always calling up about this particular topic. Then go back and review that, and with your SMEs, try and find maybe a better way to rewrite that content to answer the questions that are coming into your help centers.
Last comment coming from Craig. He gives an example using a docs code with Google Doc for review, and you have a link there you can share.
I'll go and take a quick look.
Okay, thank you very much.